I'm Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner Podcast. Today I'm talking to Tom Nuelle. Tom leads a church in Madison, Wisconsin. He's been growing his church, and one of the tools he's used effectively is social media. He's also started a program called Pure and Simple, which is helping men everywhere grow in their purity. Find out how he's been growing his church and what's helped. All this and more on the Rob Skinner Podcast. Welcome back to the Rob Skinner Podcast. My goal is to inspire you to live a no regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Tom, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks for having me, Rob. I'm super honored to be able to be here.
I know we've met a couple times. One was at a conference in the Midwest that I got invited to come speak at. And then secondly, at the Climb, actually it was called the Look Up Conference back in 2019, which became the Climb Conference. So thank you so much for coming on the program. I've heard really great things about what's going on there in Madison. But I want to start off by asking you the question, how'd you become a Christian?
Well, I appreciate the question. I'm gonna make a long story short, but I'm gonna give you a little more than your typical story. I grew up primarily just not really believing in God and being very rebellious. It's a big partier. Got thrown out of 8th grade. I just had a lot of drama in my life. I did eventually get to college at the University of Missouri, and then on Good Friday in 1986, this is a true story, I broke into a house that had been broken into earlier in the evening. I broke into a house with police in it, and I got arrested I ended up running, and then I got in a fight with the police officer, and I got arrested for first-degree burglary and resisting arrest. And I remember thinking, man, I mean, but ironically, it was on Good Friday. Trying to get this resolved, I had a serious alcohol and drug addiction, daily usage. I did get, in August of 1986, I was put in a rehab. And this woman said, this African-American woman named Flo said, you should pray. And I said, well, that's for the weak people. And she said, I don't know if you realize it, but you're in a rehab trying to stay out of prison. Maybe you ought to give it a shot. And anyway, I went to my room the next 3 nights and I prayed. I just said, God, if you're there, could a guy get a little help? And I was hoping the curtain would move or the lights would flicker. But what ended up happening was I started believing significantly. I'm like, whoa, I'm pretty sure there's a God. And I'm pretty sure the solution I'm in just a really terrible place as a 20-year-old. I started believing, I'm pretty sure my solution is God. Somehow I got that from that. And it's a real shout out to God for just meeting me right where I was at. I mean, I was in the seat of mockers, just filled with just all the things that God didn't want me to do, but I was asking him for help. I got out of there, I went to a halfway house, and then I went to AA almost every day for 5 years. Just like, man, I got to get this thing. I got to stay sober. I got this AA sponsor. It's like a mentor. And he really emphasized willing to go to any lengths. And he emphasized that my problems were of my own making. And he said, you really got to take responsibility for yourself and learn to turn your will and your life over to God. And I started doing what he was telling me to do. And my life changed. My mom was like, we don't know what happened to you. And I was like, it was God. And she was like, oh, okay, whatever. And it's a true story. But I became a zealot for God, and I had never really read the Bible. I was like, man, God, this is so amazing. So I was really active in AA. God was making me into a minister before I even knew what a minister was. Then a couple of years later, I prayed. I was like, God, I want to know the truth. I felt like I was missing something. I'd gone to a number of churches. And then this another crazy story. This guy I used to ride motorcycles with. He was like out of an action movie. He talked like he was. His name was Jim Vollmer, and his nickname was the Volminator. And the Volminator was all of a sudden he quit smoking, and he was like, "You got to go to church." And I was like, what kind of church does the Fulminator go to? And he introduced me to one of my best friends now, Dave Widener. And then Dave Widener started studying the Bible with me, and I was like, "Whoa, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I was looking for." I got baptized at midnight on April 23rd, 1993, into a Bible talk of about 12 people, and we had to drive over an hour one way to go to church.
Oh,
But I was like, "Man, this is it. This is what I was looking for." And yeah, that's how I became a Christian.
that was 1993. Where were you and what was the church?
I lived in Bloomington, Illinois, and we were driving to the Champaign Church.
What was
And we were just,
what was Dave doing there?
Dave was working for Bristol Myers as a drug rep.
Back
And
in 93.
93. Yeah. And there were like 12 people. His sister and brother-in-law were in the church. And then we were just really a ragtag group. And then 8 of my friends became Christians in the next year.
8 of your friends?
8. Yeah. And then we were just baptizing lots of people, even though we had to drive 2 hours just to go to church. God was just moving in a powerful way. And I just have always, even from AA till then Bloomington till now, I'm just a huge God fan. Like, God is just so amazing, and I'm so enamored by him and so delight in the things that he does in life. So,
Wow. Okay. Well, how did you meet your wife?
okay. So I'm in this church, and this is the first time I ever heard moral teaching on sexual purity. So I remember even thinking, man, if I got to be Paul, I'll be Paul, because I'm a single guy in a church of 12 people. And I'm like, I even broke up with a girlfriend to become part of the church. And I was like, okay, I just whatever. And they were talking about this thing called encouragement dates. And I was like, yeah, I'll go on an encouragement date, but we need some people. I mean, there's nobody, I don't really know anybody. So a sister called me from Champaign, and she set me up on a blind date with this girl. Her name was Carol Vaughn then. Now she's Carol Nuelle. And I had to drive 100 miles just to go on the date. And I was thinking, okay, encourage the sister, whatever. I mean, I'm just living for God at this point. And sure enough, I was like, wow, man, this church thing is pretty incredible. There's like really beautiful women in the church. And Carol lived in Chicago, and I lived in Bloomington. So Bloomington's about 140 miles south of Chicago. We hit it off pretty well at this big group date. And then I just called her up, and then I would drive up to Chicago and take her on dates. Eventually we started dating. And then I moved from Bloomington to Chicago. And then we led a house church up there, a Bible talk, group of people. And then we got married. So I 3 months after I became a disciple, or 4 months after I became a disciple, I met her. And then a year and 12 days later, I got married. And then we've been married a little over 30 years.
Congratulations. So you got kind of a crazy story there. Like in 86, you got busted by the police. You went into rehab. You're kind of a loose cannon as a quote unquote Christian there. Just you believed in God, but really had no foundation to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got pulled into a group of disciples and got baptized in 90.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how old are you now, Tom?
I'm 59. I'll be 60 later this year.
Oh, okay, we're the same age. Okay, you're born in 65.
Yeah, 65. Okay. November 65.
Okay, yep. I'm September 65. Okay.
Okay, great year.
I knew I liked you from the minute I met you. That's awesome. Okay, can you tell me a little bit about Pure and Simple, about the ministry that you started?
It was in 2004. It was maybe, I don't know, 12, about a little less than a year after the letter hit. So in our churches, the ICOC, there was very little discipling, and there was a lot of people trying to figure stuff out, not really knowing which way to go and what to do. So we decided to start this purity group, and it was right at the time when internet pornography was taking off. So there's no accountability or discipling. People are sorting that out. And then at the same time, pornography is is available and cheap and free for everybody. And then all these guys are getting just sucked up into it. So we started a group. We're thinking maybe a few guys or whatever. Started out, it was me, Dave Widener, and a couple other guys. It was really Dave's idea. He had more of a battle with this than I did, but I definitely have my battles, or have had my battles in the past. And so I was like, yeah, I'm all in. Let's do it. And we started this group, a couple guys, and then boom, within a few months, it had grown to like 20 guys, all coming from all over Chicagoland, coming to our group. And then we were working that, and then I started another group on Saturday morning. We were doing 2 groups a week because we had so many guys who were looking for help. And ultimately, one group in particular was on a Tuesday night. I was like, gosh, we're not really doing the things that God expects us to do. If we're gonna really believe in the promise of 2 Peter 1 or 2 Peter 1 verses 3 and 4 about how everything necessary for life and godliness has been given to us, we're literally promised that we can escape the corruption of the sinful nature. We have to put all of our effort into it. So I started insisting with the guys, you have to do quiet times every day and recovery work every day and check in every day. I just started insisting it, or either don't come to the meeting or I'm not going to come to the meeting because we're not going to get better until we do the work. Sure enough, these guys, they took it to heart and they all started really putting their effort in, and God literally blessed that group. I mean, it was amazing. These older brothers just started getting fired up, and they were putting so much of their energy into God, and then God was transforming them. And then I knew, man, we have got to do, I just have got to do this. There's guy after guy after guy after guy looking for help and needing help. So we did that. Dave's a little bit more of a promoter. So he and Robin she would write books and he would go to other cities. And then he had this idea. He was like, hey, let's do a camp out and get everybody together, talk about purity, husbands and wives, and a camp out. I was like, man, I think we just need to do like a hotel. And I had already run retreats and stuff like that. So I was like, hey, you know what? Let me organize it. We'll get a hotel and we'll put together a conference totally devoted to sexual purity. And we were hoping for 50, 75 people. We got 150 at the first one. And people came from all over the country. Guy Hammond even came from Canada, so we were able to call it an international conference. And so we've still been doing it for 17 years or so. So yeah, I think this year it'll be our 16th. We missed a year in COVID. We got bumped a year in COVID.
So you've had a conference every year since 2003?
No, like 2008 or 9. I think.
see. That's when you first started. Okay. And
Yeah.
how's the attendance? Are you still getting over 100 people there to come to the conference?
Yeah, we were just in New York, and we had like 220 people come. We had 220 people come. We had gotten it as high as like 450 right before the pandemic. So there's people that really follow the ministry. They love the depth of it, and they love the relationship part of it, and they love the training part of it. I mean, you're not going to get out of something as significant as a sexual sin addiction type thing without a lot of training. And so anyway, we just put a lot into it, and people really get a lot out of it.
How has your background in AA connected you or prepared you for that ministry?
That's a great question. When I was in AA, like I explained a little bit, I was going to meetings all the time, and I got this sponsor, and he just insisted that I can remember even getting on my knees and praying. I was like, man, I'm praying with a man in my apartment. I thought it was so weird. And I said this prayer. I said, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that victory over my problems will bear witness to thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. Something like that. We're on our knees. And then he got me to take responsibility for all my past. I wrote it all down. I mean, literally, I filled up a whole yellow pad, all the stuff I'd ever done wrong. was open with him about it. He was very thoughtful in the way that he listened to me. And then he taught me to like go after personal things in my life to start trying to change. I even went back and paid money to people I had stolen from, gave all kinds of money. I used to steal a lot. So I gave all kinds of money, even to charities where I couldn't actually pay people back that I'd stolen from. And anyway, I did this process transform me spiritually. So I was like, oh my gosh, God is so real and he's so good and he's saving. I mean, he'll save people. Like, I didn't think of it in like what we think about save for eternity. He'll
Right.
just save you.
Right.
And then so I started sponsoring. I was like, well, what am I should be sponsoring people. So then I sponsored as many as like 14 guys at one point, and we started a group. And so I was all in. Like, we used addiction as a way to like pass on God to other people. And so I just was all in on that before I became a disciple. And then after I became a disciple, I really kind of let it go in favor of the church and making disciples and studying the Bible with people. And then when we picked it back up, I just know addiction language. I understand so many of the kind of the nuances of people who struggle with addictions and the way they avoid problems and different kinds of ways that they fool themselves and are unable to get free. And so it's just easy for me to talk about it with people. I can be really relatable, but I understand it too.
Are you still like alcohol free? Tell me about the, that was a long time ago when you started those programs.
Yeah.
How's it going now?
Yeah, I've been sober. It'll be 39 years, August 4th this year. And I've thought about it. I've known people who have become disciples who had quit drinking, started drinking again, and actually had a problem. And then I've known people who quit drinking or alcoholics and started drinking again, they're okay. To me, it's a godly sorrow issue. See what earnestness, see what eagerness, what indignation. If I had a problem and God delivered me from it, the last thing I want to do is go back to it.
Right.
So I'm done. Everybody gets a certain number of drinks in life, and I just had all mine by the time I was 20.
That's awesome. Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, so can you give me an overview of your career since you became a Christian? You got baptized a little bit older. You weren't a college student, clearly, in 93.
I was 27 when I got baptized. Yeah.
Okay,
So
you were
I
working
get
at
married.
that time. Okay, where'd you go to school? What?
I went to Illinois State in
Okay.
Bloomington, Illinois. I had gone to the University of Missouri. That's where I got in trouble with the law, almost went to prison. Then I eventually got back to school at Illinois State. I changed my major to computer science. I did really well at computer science, got a degree in computer science. I worked in New York with IBM. Then I moved back to Bloomington and worked at State Farm Insurance. And that's where I was when I became a disciple. Then I moved to Chicago and got married to Carol in 94. And then in 96, Byron Parson invited Carol and I to lunch and said, hey, I want you guys to work for the church. And I was 30 at the time. I was thinking, man, Jesus was 30 when he started his ministry. I'm 30. Maybe there's some kind of correlation going on there. But I would say when I got into the ministry, I don't know, it was like I felt unbelievably ineffective. And it was hard for years. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't get anybody to become a Christian. I was trying to walk around a campus. And I was like, I don't even want to talk to these people. What did I do with my life? I quit my job where I was making lots of money, and now I'm making peanuts, and I'm broke, and I had to sell the second car, and I'm like wandering around on campus. And like, it was so, I remember thinking, somebody's got to be the worst guy on the team. I guess that's my role. I would pray to God, like, God, please get me out of here. And but I remember thinking, I'm pretty sure it was God who put me here. And I knew it was better to do something for God than it was to like work in my corporate job. I mean, it's just better. It's like intrinsically, there's more opportunity to do something good for all of eternity. And so anyway, after about 7 years or so, somewhere around there, like it was shortly after the letter. Like, it's funny, after the letter, like good things started happening for me. I started converting. I was successful at being able to help some guys who are really good, really like this guy who's a professional uh, building remodeler in downtown Chicago. Like he was part of a team that they would buy literally office buildings in Chicago, and he was in charge of the actual project of remodeling office buildings. And I got another guy was able to God did it, but he was starting to use me to help guys. He was a captain in the Chicago Fire Department. And it like somehow it just started putting me at ease. Like, oh, okay, I guess maybe I am like cut out to do this.
But Tom, when you became a Christian, you helped 8 of your friends become Christians. So you're by nature like a very evangelistic person. So what was the difference?
Well, those people all knew me, and I didn't, and the thing that we had in common of the people that became Christians, we all had the addiction thing in common. And so I just kind of like that was a really big part of my identity when I was a young person. This whole I'm an addict, but I'm overcoming, and then I help other addicts, and that was my social circle. So then when I started stepping out of that and like trying to help people who are more just professional and who lived less traumatic lives, I didn't understand how to relate to them, and I didn't understand how to win over the trust. And I didn't even understand that's what I was doing. I didn't understand anything. I was somehow leading a ministry of 200 people. Carol and I were, and I was like, Carol would say things like, "I think God's in charge of the harvest," and I was like, "You don't know ministry. Like I'm a bad minister."
Okay, so you were
But
there.
eventually God relented, and he started, I just started learning the things I needed to learn. So
Okay, so at you're 30, you went into the ministry. That was in Chicago. That was 95. And
mhm.
then you did that for a while, and then give me the update until now. Where have you
Sure.
been?
Yeah, then we were in Chicago till 2012. Then we moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan. My son was in 4th grade. My daughter was going into 8th grade. And we moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan to lead the West region out there with Tom and Lori Wilson. I remember thinking, man, should I be moving my daughter? And then I was like, I just was willing to do whatever. I really believed it was God. Like God was calling us to move. So we were in Chicago for 16 years. We moved to Ann Arbor for 4 years. Mark Kang came there for a year. Most fun year I had in the ministry. He was so fun to work with. Carol and I just had a blast with Mark and Ruth. Then word was that it was, oh, this is a funny story. We were coming home from the WDS in St. Louis, the World Discipleship Summit in St. Louis. And Doug Arthur had been throwing out the Frisbees. I don't know
Right.
if you
I
remember
remember
that.
absolutely.
So we're driving home. I was sitting in the car. I was like, man, I could move again for God. And my wife, Carol, she's like, I could move again for God. My daughter, Joy, by this time was a disciple in the back seat. She's like, I could move again for God. We get back. That's Sunday. The next morning, Mark Kang calls me and says, hey, Madison really needs a new church leader. You guys want to move to Madison? And I was like, did I just not say that I was willing to move? So anyway, so I said, yeah, I mean, I said we'd be open to it. The following Monday, Mark calls me and says, congratulations, you guys are the new ministers of the Madison Church of Christ. Which it didn't quite work out like that. We had to go to the Madison Church, and so anyway, so we were in Ann Arbor for 4 years, and then we moved to Madison, and the church was in crisis when we moved here. There were a lot of things going on, and so that kind of fired me up a little more. Like, hey, that we would be moving for a need. There was a real need here.
Okay, so you went there. Can you describe the size of the church, where it was at, what it was struggling with, and how what's happened since that time? What's the church
Yeah.
size now? Can just give me the kind of overview of the progress you've seen since you moved there?
Sure. So when we got here, the church was like about 102 members. It had lost 40 members in the previous year. Uh, the real issue, if I were to, I would say 2 big issues. Number one, and I've seen it happen in people in the ministry where over time, their faith ebbs away and they lean more towards wisdom instead of, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but if we got God around here, something's going to happen.
Right.
Something exciting's going to happen. They had really lost that. there were some older people who were real dominant in the way that they were operating in the church, and they were hurting lots of people. Essentially, they were hurting lots of people, and people were leaving, and just the culture was really it's not faithful. It's not a faithful, spiritual, man, we love to serve kind of culture. It was a culture that really was very critical and very difficult. And so, I mean, I did a lot of lessons on just being humble, and a lot of lessons on, and it took a while, man. I didn't realize the power battles I was getting into. I didn't realize the things I had no idea. But God, true to form, he just kept working things out. And even in the first couple of years we were here, another 40 people left. But we we baptized people. God was blessing us with some great baptisms. And slowly but surely, the church just transformed, where the really unhappy people stopped coming to church. And then, or they became more happy and more faithful. And then God brought a whole bunch of new people. And even the makeup of the church now, so we've been here for 8.5 years. The makeup of the church now is we have a little over 50 Yo Pros. We're still at 100. I grew. We got the church to 100, and then boom, we had a mass move out. Got it all the way down to 80 again, and then now we're at 94, and then we're about to move out. 3 more young professionals and 7 really great people. The way I encourage myself is, hey, we're blessing the kingdom. We're sending out some really great young people that are leaving here. But we have a little over 52 Yo Pros, and I want to say 12 campus students, and the church is 94 members right now.
Okay, so tell me, you got the church stabilized, and I know recently I was talking to Joel Nagel, and he says you're doing a fantastic job with social media. Can you talk about the progress you've seen over the past couple of years there?
Yeah, well, we've only been doing it since last June, so we've only been doing it for 10 months. My daughter's in the Boston church, and she's in Stuart, Maine's region. And she was saying, she called home one Sunday, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, we have so many visitors at church. It's annoying." And I was like, "Ooh, that's my love language right there." She was I guess she was leading a house church at the time, and she was trying to talk to the people in her house church, but she couldn't because there were so many guests running around. It was like getting in the way. About that time, Boston came out with a presentation on the faith journey funnel, where they do this. They put social media, they put things out on social media, and then when people choose to follow them on social media, they DM them. They do a direct message, and they reach out to them, and they try to get them into a Bible study or come to church. Now, they have a lot more resources for this stuff. And they have this one particular girl, Mari. I think she's the one who does their social media content, at least on Instagram.
Right.
She's amazing.
Yes.
And then they got a system in place. And then they were so effective at it. I was like, and then I'm thinking to myself, people rarely come out to church. They still do if you reach out to them at the grocery store. But man, everybody's on their phone. I walk around, I look at everybody's on their phone. I'm not a social media guy. I really don't do Facebook. I don't do Instagram. I don't do any of that. But I know that's where everybody's at. We have 2 people in our church that are just amazing. 22-year-old guy, Evan Wooldridge. He's now he's getting his MDiv at Harding. He got a full ride scholarship to Harding to do his MDiv. He just graduated from the University of Wisconsin with a full ride scholarship. He had his own business selling geckos. He was incredibly successful. It paid for all his housing expenses while he was at college. Just a very talented guy, super big heart for God. He got converted here. Then there was a sister. So he had already done social media stuff for his business. And there's another sister. Her name's Grace Alice. Her parents are great disciples in the Los Angeles church. She was the one who's into just kind of doing these vibey videos for the campus. So I had the idea, hey, let's get together. Let's figure this thing out. Let's do it together. And we'll see if we can't get you know, to get the church to pay you. So instead of having to do like a Starbucks job, we'll and then we just got together every week, and we ended up. So we've got our Instagram plan where we post videos and reach out to the people who follow us. We've had 4 baptisms from that, all kinds of guests and studies. Then our guy Evan, he actually did our website for us. He did an amazing job. Like I was talking to other people, and they were wanting to charge me 10 grand. He charged a fifth of that. He charged a couple $1,000s. He did an amazing job. He and I are like really best friends, even though he's 22 and I'm about to retire. We're still we're like best friends. But anyway, he also does this thing for us called Google Grants. This is something every church ought to know about. Google will give you up to $10,000 a month free advertisement if you're a nonprofit. And what you do is you create these ad campaigns, and then if people search on your campaign words, they'll respond by putting ads for your church out on people's Google searches. So we started out like you get up to 10,000 a month, and we were only able to like get about 60 or $100 worth of hits. We're now up to like $9,000 worth of hits. Like we're figuring out the keywords and adjusting the keywords, and but it's changed our church. So even though we're 93, 94 members, we have 110 people who come to church on Sunday consistently. And they find us online. We just get people wandering in. So a lot of evangelism, even the instruction on evangelism is, hey, listen, do your evangelism at church. Like there's new people coming in. You want to set up a study, just look around and go see if you can set up a study with these people who are wandering into the church. So, but Evan and Grace are just really, really, they're great to work with. And so, I just have taken the approach because what we're really trying to do is we're trying to tackle a professional. I mean, that's a professional skill. Is learn how to social media market. But you work at it and just keep learning a little bit. Every week I try to learn a little more. And then we meet every week and we just have an agenda. We go through our different responsibilities and what we're learning. And slowly but surely it's kind of turned into a real rhythm, and it's turning into fruitfulness for the church.
Okay, Tom, you're 59 years old. You've been leading a church for a long time. It'd be easy to go, hey, I'm too old for this. This is not something I'm great at. Maybe delegate it, but it's something you've kind of taken on. You're starting to see progress. What's helped you to kind of overcome the reluctance or maybe the hesitance?
Yeah. I feel like, honestly, the things that excite me are the things that are, I don't know, man, what could be? It's a little bit of an adventure spirit. Does that make sense? Like, man, I love a good project and plus it's around saving people. It's like, man, and one thing I didn't see anybody else doing it actually. I heard Boston doing it, and I was like, hey, we can do that. We can do that kind of stuff. I don't know, maybe it's I just believe like just God is so. I was listening to one of your podcasts and you were like, man, there's open people everywhere. And it's so true. Like God just has open people, and God wants to do good things. Like the thing I find when I'm not like in a good faith spot, I'm unable to see that. But I really love being in a great faith spot. And I just love to see him move in these ways.
For those who are like hesitant about getting into it, or maybe feel like, oh, I'm not that good technologically, what would be a good first 3 steps to make? Like just to kind of move in that direction? Because we've seen a huge impact in the church here in Tucson by using social media. Like a number of the people that have become Christians recently found the church online, either through Google Maps or finding the line, social media, Instagram. It's really been powerful, and it's surprising. It's such a big shift in the way evangelism's been done. So I'm surprised as well as you. But what, how could a person get started? Let's say a person's in a small church and they're just kind of getting started. What would be the first 3 steps? What would you advise?
Boy, that's a good question. I think the one thing that every church could do is could work on their Google Grants. You just apply for a grant, a Google grant. They'll give you a Google grant, and then you can create a campaign, and you can start advertising, get free advertising money for your church. And that doesn't really take like social media skill or clever video skill. Just takes, somebody to do, and it wouldn't have to be the minister. Just find somebody to be able to take that on. If you wanted to do social media, it would be the finding somebody who could consistently post content and plan to do it for a long time. When it comes to social media, the name of the game is more longevity than it is even being clever. So if you have somebody who really likes to do social media, they can create. So that would be the second step. And the third step is whenever people follow you, that's your opportunity to have a direct conversation. Those are people to evangelize, or people to follow, or people to reach out to.
Mm-hmm. Are you on Instagram yourself?
I only follow our page. so I think I have an Instagram account. Sean Wooten shamed me into it. He said, why don't you have an Instagram account? And I said, well, I mean, it's only filled with young people. And he said, that's my point. And so I got a page, but I don't really post any content. And but then I watch our page, and then I'll watch a few other like church pages just to see what's going on. But I'm primarily looking at it to make sure that we keep posting and that the people who are following us get invited out to things, and just make sure that we're on top of it. We're using that element.
Right.
But when you do all this work, I think of it from the perspective, you're giving God something to work with.
That's right.
And this is where all the people are at. Like the people are all out there.
Yeah.
And even if it's not so good Instagram, it's okay. Like you're giving God something to work with. He will literally bless your efforts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really inspires me about what you're doing there, Tom, because Tom, you don't seem like a social media influencer. You don't strike me as a person, it's clear you're not trolling on the internet all the time, but you've decided, okay, this is an opportunity to serve the interests of Jesus by reaching out there, and you're making a difference. I think one thing that I see you doing is you're making it a priority every week to meet with your team and to talk with them. That right there is a great step. Mm-hmm. And you're making a priority so people know that every week we're going to try to make a little bit of progress. You also mentioned that you take time every week to learn. Like what does that mean? What does that look like?
That'll be, I will go look at YouTube videos on how to do social media. One of the guys I really like is a guy named Brady Shearer. He's got a YouTube channel, and he also has a church marketing company. So he'll do this for you. If you don't have somebody to do this for you, he'll do it for you. And there's actually several companies out there that'll do it for you. And it's for about the price of an intern that you can pay him. But he's one. There's some other guys out there, but then learned how to do Google Grants, learn how to do SEO, search engine optimization, like learning little things, and then making sure. So for example, if you want your church to come up or to be recognized by Google on searches, you want to make sure your information is correct across all your platforms. So that on Facebook, the address is the same, the phone number is the same, your things are the same, and you're producing content, and then slowly but surely it sees your church as relevant. And so anyway, just learning things like that. I didn't know how to do that, but then you start watching videos, and just a little bit at a time, just a little bit at a. I'm going to learn a little bit. So
that's awesome.
And that's it.
So
go ahead.
I wanted to ask you: are you planning on coming to the Climb Small Church Leadership Conference this October in Michigan?
I am, absolutely.
Okay, so it's not that far.
You reached out to me. You actually gave me a phone call. I owe you an apology. Never even got back to you. You wanted me to come to Texas. Uh, I I know I sound energetic on the call, but I'm like I'm a little older and a little tireder. I don't know if you feel that way now that you're getting. Anyway, though,
No
I
comment,
just
Tom. No comment.
there you go. But no, this year I'm planning on coming, especially since it's in the Midwest. But
Yeah. Okay. That's like, how far is Lansing from where you're at?
oh, it's about an 8-hour drive. No, 6-hour drive. 6-hour drive.
Oh, same state?
No, we're in Wisconsin. It's in Michigan.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I was thinking Ann Arbor. Okay.
I'm in Madison now.
You're Madison. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. All right. So it is a little bit of a longer drive. Okay. So that's going to be great. I'm glad you're going. For those who are thinking about going, and I want to just kind of talk to those and put a little plug in for the conference, why would you recommend going to this small church leadership conference?
I think you get some great. When I went the first time, you just get inspired, right? You see people who are doing things, and I've learned over the years, like even when I'm watching people tell about their stories where they're doing well, it's maybe very much apples to oranges to my situation, but I love to hear about God doing powerful things among us, and it just reinvigorates your faith. There may be some other practicals that are really helpful, but then also the fellowship, other people who are in the same predicament. My wife and I joke all the time together. It sounds good, like God's moving, but a lot of times we feel like we're cobbling it together,
Right.
right? It's a small church. You're doing all the things that a big church does. You got to have kids' kingdom. God has blessed us with a building, so we got to clean the building. We got to have a cleaning roster. We've got 9 people in the band. I mean, that's 10% of our church is in the band every Sunday morning, plus communions, welcomes, all that kind of stuff. There's just a lot of moving parts, and it's a small church with low resources. So it just takes a lot to be able to do it. And with the faith in God is what makes it fly. To me, it's the faith in God's what makes it fly.
Right. That's the challenge of the small church, isn't it? It's like you feel like you're a one-man band. You're blowing the horn and hitting the drums at the same time and doing everything. And so
got the harmonica also.
Oh my gosh, don't forget that. Absolutely. Tom, when you think back on your life and your career, what advice would you give to a person who wants to make this life count?
Yeah, I love that question, and I just love that that's the theme of your podcast. Just making, boy, do I see, and I'm sure you see it too. People just spend lots of time doing things that just don't matter, And I mean, if there was ever a time in life where you can be entertained, now is the time you can entertain yourself.
Isn't that the truth? That's crazy.
And I literally feel bad for people at the amount of time that they waste on this stuff. Like you just don't need to do it. But I think if I want to make a difference or if I'm giving advice, there's 2 theological ideas: the sovereignty of God and the goodness of God. God is absolutely as present as he ever has been, and he's working things out, every little detail. He certainly gives us room. He doesn't take over our will, but he is very present all the time and everything. And then you merge that with the idea that God is always good. So no matter what's going on, it's always good. Like maybe it's a time of difficulty here, but when those 2 ideas really get into your soul, there's just such great power there. Like, oh yeah, I can do so much for God. Like you believe, like when you believe it, there's so much opportunity there. Then I would say a couple things: take good care of your sleep, eating, and working out. That's a priority. Literally physically taking care of myself. I didn't sleep real well for a long time, thinking I was being lazy, but I realized I was probably hurting myself health-wise, trying to do almost too much and relying an extra measure of relying on myself instead of relying on God. So I would take really good care of yourself, and then pay close attention to what you use your time for. Your time, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And I know over the years, just slowly but surely refined it, where time is precious, and the opportunity to make a difference with your time is precious. I'm so grateful I'm in the ministry after 29 years being in the ministry. I love it. I'm just like, when you start putting these things together, it's like, man, you're living in this opportunity to do good for God.
Right.
And it sure wasn't like that at the beginning. Years of trial, but perseverance ultimately wins the day.
That's right. That's right. Looking forward, what are your plans for the next 5 to 10 years?
I would love to get our church to 150 members. And so I thought, okay, man, we've even baptized 10 people in the last 6 months. And it's not me, it's God. Like, God just keeps sending us people, open people, just golden-hearted people. So my plan is really, I've identified people that I'm training to be great leaders, more than just fruitful, but just great people that would ultimately be people that could lead a group of 10 to 15 people and do that group well. So I'm just thinking more infrastructure with building the church for the next 5 or 10 years, assuming my energy holds out that long before I have to retire. And then the other, of course, the purity. I would say right now, we have 4 significant young leaders in our church that have all come through our purity group. And then we even have another couple in another city that came through our purity group. And these are all just purity groups here in Madison. And then we even have 2 purity groups in a church of 93 that's half women. We have 2 men's purity groups in a church of 93 people. One that was started and is kind of being managed by a guy who got through it. And then we got another one full of a bunch of new guys who are, most of them are recent converts in the church. And I'm leading that one. But I use that to really lay a foundation of character for these young guys. So it's building people. And again, it's not like I have a massive detailed vision. I really leave the vision up to God. And then that way, instead of loving the vision, I can love the people in my ministry.
That's awesome. Okay, so you want to get to 150. Do you have a target date for retirement?
I should be good to go by 62 if I wanted to. So it's an energy thing. It's an energy thing.
Got it. That's good. So you're raising up young leaders, building them in their purity and righteousness, and hopefully you can turn it over to them.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen this in the church, where I feel like there's people who stay faithful for a long time, but don't mature well. And that really bothers. I'm like, gosh, okay, if you're going to be in my church for 10 years, I want you, I'm really going to get in there to try to make sure you get something for that.
Right.
If you're not more than just being saved and having a community, I really want you to get a kind of a transformation that's going to make you more useful to God.
I think that's a great attitude. It's like that scripture in Hebrews where it says, by one sacrifice, he is made perfect forever, those who are being made holy. It's like we've got to help people to be made holy. And we don't do it, but at least facilitate that in the context of Jesus's church. So that's awesome. I look forward to talking to you in the future about your purity program. There's some things that I just kind of discovered here going into the conversation that I think really be awesome to talk more about. So, Tom, thanks for the time. God bless you in your work there in Madison, and I pray you get to 150. But God's working in a powerful way there. So, all the best to you, and I'll see you in October in Lansing.
Awesome. Rob, thanks so much for having me on your show. I'm super honored and just really enjoy spending an hour talking to you.
It's great.
Thanks so much.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Here's how you can help support the program. First, let your friends know about the podcast. Secondly, read and review one of my books, either How to Plant and Grow a Church or Courage, How to Make This Life Count. Or you can support the program with a gift today. The link is in the show notes because my goal is to inspire you to make this life count, live a no regrets life, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day. and make this life count.